Leafs,
NHL,
rumors,
prospects,
banter,
and everything in between.
This is the Shanaclan Podcast
with Hobbs
and
Lugsy.
Welcome back to episode 25 of the Shanaclan Podcast. I'm here with Hobbs and I'm Lugsy, and this episode is a big episode. We've got your playoff preview here, hot and ready. Some juicy takes here, some hot takes. Hobson, let's get into it, okay? So this episode, first things first, we've got a Shanaclan fan question from David. David McSween, he's a longtime listener, kind of a friend of the show. He hasn't been on the show, but I'd consider him a friend. So
David's been great for giving us questions, eh?
Oh, he's been rocking them off.
He's the only guy amazing. Giving us questions.
I love it. I absolutely love it. No, because like you'll tweet out, hey, do any of you guys have questions for us? And then people will like it.
My God, it's the worst. I got for the record, I think 4 or 5 likes on that tweet today about asking for questions. And it's like, guys, I didn't say like if you have a question. I said like reply to me with a question and we'll answer it. But yeah, it's whatever. I'm over it. I'm not over it, but I'm over it.
Oh, well. So the question from David comes as this: is Mikko Kokkinen's offense a flash in the pan, or is this legit? So to give this question some context, Mikko Kokkinen is a signee on, I think he's on a PTO. No, he's on an ELC from the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's now been playing on the Toronto Marlies for the past 2 weeks from Finland this season. And Kokkinenen, I believe, has about 6 points in 8 games. I want to say.
I didn't realize he had that many until you posed the question in the prep. I checked it out and I was like, oh shit, he's actually doing pretty well in the AHL.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just going to search it up.
I've got it right in front of me. He's got one goal, 5 assists in 8 games.
Okay, so 6 points in 8 games. And his points previously from Finland are not anything to write home about, because he's got this season, he's got 10 points in 50 games with Ukrit Mikkeli from the SM Liga. So that tells you that Mikko Kokkinen is being used as a really stay-at-home defenseman, like really used heavily on the defensive side of things, which is encouraging considering the fact that he's being brought over here, and we should know that his defensive game is strong. So with this in mind, I think the offense is a bit of a flash in the pan. Management probably is protecting him, trying to get his confidence going on the North American ice. I don't expect him to keep going with this offensive output because, let's face it, for the past 4 years he's been in the SM Liga, he hasn't put up those numbers. So that immediately tells you that, yeah, this is probably a flash in the pan, but if he keeps doing this, that's absolutely amazing. The only issue is that he's a left-handed defenseman, and he's 5'11", so not the biggest guy. So he better make up that difference with a high IQ and strong defensive play. And Hobbs on the show is ripping some beers. I love it.
Gorgeous weather outside, man. I'm drinking the beer of summer right here for those.
Brava.
Yeah, for those who are listening and can't see, yes, yeah, it's very, very beautiful. I was doing some like weather forecasts and stuff over at 610, and I was looking at the weather report, and every day it was just, all right, well, today it's 20 and sunny, tomorrow 21 and sunny, Wednesday 24 and sunny, Thursday 26 and sunny. It's just I don't know where you all are listening from, but man, it's where we are. It's just absolutely stunning all week.
Yeah, and I've been landscaping for the past 2 weeks.
Fun stuff.
Construction landscaping. So I actually enjoy it. I like it a lot. So
there you go, man. That's all that matters. It's a lot of fun.
So now switching gears, because this is the meat of the show. This is the real heart of the lineup here, the playoffs. We're in May.
We love the Yoffs.
The Yoffs. Yeah. So first things first. The very first series I want to bring up to you. Wait, no. How about this, Hobson? Do you have a bracket made?
I've got one to an extent. Yes, I've got all my. So I've got all my picks for the first and second round, and then I haven't really established who I think is going to come out in the conference finals yet because I don't know what the seeding is. I will by the time we get there. But I'd say I've got enough of a bracket now that we can delve into our predictions.
Because I hope my bracket loads for a sec here, because I'm just gonna bring mine up.
That's just gonna be awkward if it doesn't load, eh?
I don't think it is. Crap.
We should just go through every single series.
Yeah.
Say our predictions one by one, and then we'll work it out from there.
Sure. Okay. Well, I've got my bracket here.
All right. Let's get things started here.
All right. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Hobson, here's the thing. So we've got Colorado, St. Louis. Okay. Colorado and St. Louis. A lot of people are going to be like, yeah, that's a runaway pick. That's Colorado. Hobson, what do you think?
I don't think it's a runaway pick. I don't think any playoff matchup is ever a runaway pick. And I think it's been like that ever since. I mean, I'm sure there have been some crazy upsets in the past that I wasn't alive to know about. But if you even want to just look back 2 years ago, the 2019-20 playoffs when Columbus fucking swept Tampa Bay. Ever since that happens, like in the modern era, I can't call any matchup a sure thing. I wouldn't be, even the Leafs, like everyone's like, if you looked at Sportsnet anchors predictions yesterday, every single one of their hosts, their analysts, their reporter, everything, they all said Leafs in 5, Leafs in 6, or Leafs in 7. Even Eric Engels, the Habs beat reporter, said Leafs in 7. So even with all the people that are saying that the Leafs and the Habs is like Toronto's got all the odds going for them, I still don't feel confident enough to say, yes, they're absolutely going to win the series. Like we'll get to that later, obviously. I'm just using that as an example. But getting back to your question, Mark, no, I don't think it's a runaway series. I mean, we're talking about a St. Louis Blues team that won the Cup 2 years ago. So while they obviously might not be a Cup contender this year, I don't think anyone's really hammering them in, especially with the fact that they're playing Colorado in the first round. Definitely not a runaway. Personally, I've got Colorado winning that one in 6 games.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? I think 6 is fair because like St. Louis, they play a strong enough system where they can just counterattack you with that offense. Tarasenko can be dangerous. Ryan O'Reilly's a maniac in the playoffs. And then like they're strong defensively as well. So the one thing I will say is that this year, St. Louis has really struggled with the goals against per game. They're 19th in the NHL with goals against. So it's going to be a little difficult for them to try and defend the likes of McKinnon, Rantanen, and then Kadri's going to be let loose. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a full-on war. And then you got David Perron, who just recently got put onto the COVID protocol list. So that is a big blow to St. Louis's offense. I'm not quite sure like how they're going to try and like fill that hole. Jaden Schwartz can be clutch. I'm pretty sure he's been pretty solid this year. Justin Falk has taken a big step this year as well for the Blues. What were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say that Jaden Schwartz has been a pretty solid player for a number of years now. I really like him as a player personally. He's always been one of those guys that I would take in a heartbeat on the Leafs if they didn't have just oodles and oodles of winger depth, like
right.
But just to reiterate what you were saying, I know St. Louis plays a very heavy playoff game, and they're a strong team all around. And I think they'll be able to put up a fight against Colorado, but you're right. A 6, I think Colorado winning in 6 is probably a safe pick just because Colorado is finished as the best team in the NHL this year. And it's just, they've just got such an exciting team. They're super fast and they've added to their defensive core this year. Grubauer has been incredible. I can see Colorado winning that series, but it would be in 6 games.
I think the consensus for the Vezina Trophy is Vasilevsky, but Philip Grubauer is absolutely in that conversation as well. Like if he were to win it, I don't think many people would be surprised. He's been a huge part of Colorado's success. And then you get an addition like Devon Tays, who leads Colorado in time on ice with 24 minutes. That's huge. That's big time minutes for them. So, and I had him on my fantasy team this year. He was a really sneaky pickup,
especially if you've got hits and blocks enabled as stats. Like he's good for that.
The one thing, okay, so here's why I'll say 5 games. 5 games for Colorado, okay? Is because McKinnon has been stuck on the hump for so long. He's been stuck there for so long. And then you've got Rantanen as well. 2 superstars for Colorado. St. Louis has a star in Ryan O'Reilly, and that's kind of it. Jordan Binnington is super hot and cold, and he's just a basket case. And St. Louis's defense, it's okay. Like, Torrey Krug is bad defensively. It's just a fact. He's bad defensively. Colton Parayko is pretty good. Like, he's a beast on defense. Justin Falk is taking a big step for them, but I don't think that's enough because there's Cale Makar, there's Devon Tays, McKinnon, Rantanen, and then they've got the better goalie. So I think like 4 games or 5 games. My choice is 5 because St. Louis still has weapons and they've still got a pretty good team overall. Colorado's just overall better. They're just an overall better team. So then moving on though, okay? So moving on, we've got Vegas and Minnesota. Hobson, what are you thinking here? Is this going to be a runaway pick as well, like a lot of people are saying?
I wouldn't call it a runaway pick, but I do think it's going to be a bit of an easier series for Vegas. I've got them winning in 5 games. And the only reason I say that is because I've been super impressed with Minnesota's team this year. Don't get me wrong. I think they've done a great job of really shedding the notion that they're a fucking retirement home and that they've done a good job of kind of like handing the torch of the core from the Parises and the Suitors to guys like Kaprizov and Jordan Greenway and Nino Niederreiter and all these new guys that are they're playing more of like an exciting, fast-paced style of hockey now. Having said that, I think just their lack of experience is going to bite them this year. I mean, sure, Minnesota, they've got Parise and Suter, like we said, like they've got some experience, but again, those guys are not the ones leading the team. Like I said, they've kind of passed the torch on to the younger guys. And I think it's going to be an exciting game. I don't think any of Vegas's wins are going to come as blowouts, but ultimately in the end, I think Vegas, and it still feels fucked to say this because Vegas has only been an NHL team for 4 years now. So it's like,
4 years.
So 18, 19. Yeah, fuck, it's been 4 years at this point. Yeah. So I mean, it feels weird to say that they're more experienced, but they literally are. Like they've made the playoffs every single year since they entered the league. And now they've added Alex Pietrangelo on the back end. They've got stellar goaltending and Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner. And truth be told, I just I see Vegas being a little bit of a wake-up call for Minnesota and just sort of I don't want to say like, when I say wake-up call, I don't mean that Minnesota is going to get their clocks cleaned. But I definitely do think that the experience is going to kind of overshadow Minnesota's. And I'm not confident enough in Vegas to call it a sweep. Having said that, I think it's going to be probably 5 games. They remind me a little bit of, just for context, they remind me a little bit of the Minnesota anyways. They remind me a little bit of the 2016-17 Leafs.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is right there. Yeah.
Kind of passing the torch to the younger guys as the core. And the Leafs took it to Washington. They took it to 6 games. But ultimately, when you've got Washington scoring, they've been in the playoffs year in and year out since like the late 2000s, essentially. Like, your lack of experience can only take you so far. So I see Minnesota probably losing in 5 games, but I think that they'll come back hungrier next year.
Well, because like the only way to gain experience on how to win is by winning. And when you don't know how to close out games in the playoffs and when you've never been there before, it's hard to understand when you have to turn up the intensity. Meanwhile, you probably should have that intensity at 1,000 miles an hour, right? So I think 5 is probably about right because like Vegas has been there before. They've been in the Cup final. They're not in the playoffs for fun. This is not house money for them. They're in there for blood. Yeah. And you look at like some of the matchups here, like Alex Pietrangelo, he's averaging 24 minutes a night. That's a lot of minutes. And then Jonas Brodin is averaging 22 minutes a night. And he's kind of like their best defenseman. I don't know. Like it's kind of like a smorgasbord of best defenseman on Minnesota. Like you don't really know who's number one. You can say Jared Spurgeon, but is he
your captain?
You know, like, then you look at the goaltending. Cam Talbot's had a really impressive redemption year this year, and 19 wins for him versus Marc-Andre Fleury, who doesn't understand the time to age pretty much.
Yeah,
26 wins. So, yeah.
And I was just going to say, if Cam Talbot falters, they've also they've got a pretty solid young rookie in Capo Kakinen to look to as well. So I like the goaltending depth.
If Fleury falters, they've got Lehner. So there you go.
Exactly.
So, and then like you look at the leaders, like the point leaders for each team. Kirill Kaprizov has got 27 goals. So he's going to be a big problem for Vegas to deal with. But then that kind of just disappears a little bit after him. Like Kevin Fiala is pretty solid. Joel Eriksson Ek he's up and coming, but he's not Kirill Kaprizov, right? Yeah. And Zach Parise's, he's washed pretty much. Jordan Greenway, I think if he can really get his feet going in this series, he could be a big problem against Vegas. Like he's a truck. He's 6'6" and he's 200 plus pounds. I was banging the drum of Jordan Greenway to the Toronto Maple Leafs for the longest time, but here they are in the playoffs. I think if Greenway can get his feet going in this series, he's going to be a big difference maker for Minnesota. But then, like, you look at Minnesota or you look at Vegas, Mark Stone, he's a psychopath. He's an absolute psychopath. And then Max Pacioretty, guy's crazy. So it's going to be really difficult for Minnesota to try and contain Vegas because Vegas is there for blood. They're not there for fun. It's not house money. Yep. I think 5 games because like Vegas, they just have an extra ounce of experience, an extra ounce of depth. It's just all around. They're much more
better matched
stable.
up for it. Yeah, they're better matched up for a win. Or I mean, they match up better against Minnesota, I would say, than Minnesota does against Vegas. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
And then like Vegas has Chandler Stevenson, Jonathan Marchessault, William Karlsson, and then Minnesota's number one centerman is Joel Eriksson Ek. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's just it's interesting to see. Like, would I be surprised if this series goes 7? Not entirely based on how Minnesota plays, but I'm expecting 5 games.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like when I make my predictions, they're just predictions. That's all it's are. That's all it is. Like I said, anything can happen in the playoffs, and especially Minnesota. Who knows? They could find a different gear, and they could use that new young core of theirs and really tire Vegas out. But yeah, that's the beauty of predictions, I guess.
Yeah. So then moving on. Okay, so to the Discover Central Division.
You know what? I understand why it's ethically correct, but I still get a kick out of saying the sponsor along with the sponsor along with the name of the division. Yeah. What is that? The Mass Mutual East Division.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Honda West and then the Scotia North. I love that. I don't know why that's funny to me, but it is. Anyways.
Well, it's one of those things where like the NHL is like, all right, we got to make money somehow. Let's sell the naming rights to the division.
Yeah, and people were mad about that too, and it's like, who the fuck cares?
The NHL's
like, how does that affect you at all? Like, okay, and anyways, that's a conversation for a different episode. Who do you got first in the Central, Mark? Hit me with it.
Look, this is Carolina versus Nashville, and
Car versus Nish.
Yeah, yeah, Cal versus Nashville or something. I don't know. However, Elliot Friedman does it. So
no, he would do CNA versus NAS.
Yeah, something.
That's what he would. That's what
something
he would
wild. So I find it hilarious that Adam Wild was banging the drum like, oh, Nashville's not making it, Dallas is making it, and this is why we play the game. You just never know who's making the playoffs.
Shanaclan podcast throwing shade at Adam Wild, eh?
Yes.
Well, he's never going to be a guest on the show, I guess. Anyways,
no. But like you look at this series though, I think it's going to be a sweep. It's
I hate to say it, Mark, because I don't want to agree with you on every single one, but I think it's going to be a sweep as well. And the only reason I say that is because between Nashville and Dallas, I mean, you were going to have the last team to clinch in the Central Division was going to scrape themselves in. And I just think Carolina's done so much this year to improve their team. And I think that they've got one of the best goaltending tandems at the very least in the NHL with Mrazek and Alex Nedeljkovic. Apparently good enough that the NHL decided to include both of those guys in the top 16 power rankings, but conveniently forget about a guy that went 17-2-2 this year. But anyways, that's a conversation for a different episode again. But yeah, Carolina's just a much more well-rounded team, and they've just been overall such a better team this year. Nashville really doesn't do anything for me. I know people are saying, oh, Nashville's been, they've been on a hot streak getting into the playoffs. And yeah, they've got momentum, but do I see them putting up much of a fight against Carolina? No, I don't. And who knows, maybe that take will age horribly. Like I've said a million times on this pod and in the past and just in general, there's nothing is ever a given in the playoffs, and it's hard to make predictions because anything can happen. How many people do you think predicted that Columbus would beat Tampa Bay a couple years ago, let alone sweep them? I'm going to keep going back to that as an example, as a reference point. Like, point is like, I don't think I don't think Nashville really is going to put up much of a fight against Carolina. Carolina's just been such an incredible team this year. They've really done a lot to improve their roster as a whole over the past couple of years. They've got one of the best, if not the best, defensive cores in the NHL. Like I said, they've got a great goaltending tandem. And you know what? I know that we've seen teams in the past win Stanley Cups off of offense and having an electric forward core, but ultimately the saying still stands: offense wins games, defense wins championships. And Carolina's got an elite defensive core and an elite goaltending tandem. So I don't see Nashville really putting out much of a fight in this series. So I'd have to agree with you. I'd say it's a sweep.
Well, because like the example that you brought up between Tampa and Columbus, I simply don't see that happening based on who's coaching Carolina, because Rod Brindamore will actually kill a man to make his team win.
I didn't mean it's possible we could see Nashville sweep Carolina. I just directly went against that by making my prediction that Carolina would sweep Nashville. But the point that I was trying to make is that you can't predict anything in the playoffs. So it could end up aging horribly. But yeah, I've got much higher hopes for Nashville and for Carolina in this series than Nashville.
Well, because like you look at their head-to-head stats from the season, and it's kind of. It's a little daunting for Predators fans to look at because like Carolina beats them in every single category listed: point percentage, face-off wins, penalty kill, power play, goals against per game, goals for game. And then you look at the Hurricanes point leaders. Sebastian Aho's got 57 points. And then Roman Josi has 33, leading the entire Nashville team in points. So I think that's a very concerning stat for the Predators going into the playoffs. It's hard to win games when you can't score goals.
Yep.
Very hard.
Very, very hard.
His Kalle Järnkrok leads Nashville with 13 goals. And Sebastian Aho leads Carolina with 24. It's very hard to win games.
Whoa, hold up. Nashville's leading goal scorer has only 13 goals?
Yes.
Oh, boy, I had no idea about that. I thought Philip Forsberg would have had more than him for sure.
I think he might have gotten injured.
Yeah, I know he was injured for a bit, but still, man, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to being a Leaf fan and watching Austin Matthews score 40 goals in 56 games. But like, or
Matthews makes it look easy, man.
He does. It's not a fair comparison, but still, it's just I would have thought that they would have had someone with at least 20 goals on their team. Like that's...
I'm gonna search up Philip Forsberg right now.
Do it
right now. 12 goals. 12 goals for Philip Forsberg. 32 points in 39 games. So there you go.
Holy yikes.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to win games when you can't score. And then a lot of people are gonna be like, Nashville won their last 2 games against Carolina, so therefore you can no. Carolina mailed it in. They don't care about you guys. They're going to turn up the dial and you guys won't be able to handle a single play from them. Like this series is over. It's done. It's over. Clip this, whatever. Send it to your friends.
This will be hilarious if Nashville somehow pulls out the win.
There's absolutely no way. Carolina's got the better goaltending, the better defense, and the better offense. There's too much, and then the better coaching.
Mark, we are going to clip this, and if for whatever reason Nashville ends up winning, they might have another thumbnail with you dressed as a clown for the second time.
I feel like
I'm on your side for this, though. I don't think Nashville stands a chance.
Okay, so honest. The next clown thumbnail should be you because of your George Springer take.
Mark, this is a hockey episode, buddy. We should maybe stay on topic here. Hey, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. So anyways, switching gears though, we're still in the Central Division, and this matchup is going to be a scorcher. It's going to be hot. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be fast moving, fast pace, quick, lightning quick. You got to be fast. Your reflexes have to be kind of like a cat. I'm talking Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning. This matchup is going to be one for the ages. So much animosity, so much hatred, so much rivalry, so much passion, so much grit, so much skill. Hobson, what are you thinking, man?
Never seen before. So I think that this series is going to end in 7 games in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, I truly feel bad for Florida because they have been an incredible team this year. They've really taken another gear. I think Alexander Barkov deserves to be looked at as one of the premier players in the NHL. And he proved that this year. They've got an offense from all over the place. Carter fucking Verhaeghe is a solid contributor for them.
Leaf legend.
Having said that, I think they're suffering a little bit from Leaf syndrome in the Atlantic Division in the sense that they have to play Tampa Bay in the first round despite being one of the better teams. So, I like I said, I feel bad for Florida, and I think it's going to be a very tight series. But in the end, I have a very, very hard time imagining that a Tampa Bay team that's all of a sudden gaining Steven Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov is going to lose in the first round. I just don't see it happening. And Florida, I think it's going to take it to Tampa Bay. I think it's going to be a barn burner until the very end. But I think ultimately Tampa Bay is going to come away victorious in this one.
It's going to be a bloodbath, man, because the Panthers acquired Sam Bennett, who's been an absolute nightmare for opposing teams. The dude's got 15 points in 10 games. No one saw that coming. He was considered a bad player by analytics and by the eye test by a lot of scouts and a lot of people on Twitter. And suffice to say, the dude's been lighting it up in FL. So here's the thing with Florida though, like they're chippy. They'll be giving it their all against Tampa. They're going to push them. They're going to push them really hard. The one question I have though is who is starting for Florida? There's 2 goalies that you can start. There's 2 goalies, Driedger or Bobrovsky. Spencer Knight's inexperienced. So the thing is like Driedger's been phenomenal this year, but you kind of have to make your money's worth out of Bobrovsky.
I was literally just gonna say that. Like you could turn to either one of them because they've been very similar this year. But ultimately, in the end, if Bobrovsky is making $10 million, and I know that when it comes to the playoffs, you don't start a guy just because he's making more money. If that were the case, the Leafs would be starting Frederik Andersen in game 1. Having said that, in a situation like this one where Bobrovsky and Driedger are both kind of had good seasons and their stats aren't like too far off from each other, I would probably start Bobrovsky in game 1, but keep him on a short leash. Like if he falters, you've got Driedger you can turn to. So I think the Panthers are going to use that whole tandem notion to their benefit this year.
Well, and the one thing where I think that Florida is going to get heavily exposed is that Florida's number 1 defenseman, Aaron Ekblad, is out of this series.
Yeah.
And he's a big minute muncher. He averages 25 minutes a night. So that is a significant hole that Florida's got to cover.
I feel bad. Yeah, I feel bad for Ekblad. That was just a garbage injury. It's a huge loss for them.
Toronto's been through that with Polak.
Yeah.
Scary injury, man. Scary.
Oh, yeah.
It looks way worse than it really is, but it still ends up bad.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Like, it's like this dude's leg is just mangled. It's gone.
Uh-huh.
It just
it
amputated.
sucks because Polak was actually having a great series up until that injury too.
He was.
You don't find yourself saying that sentence too often, but yeah, Roman Polak was one of their better defensemen in that playoff series against Washington, and it sucked to see him get injured because he was doing a great job.
What could have been if he stayed healthy, eh?
Yeah, who knows?
Who friggin' knows? So then, Hobson, what are you saying? Game 7?
Game 7.
Game 7 Tampa?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say Game 6 Tampa.
Okay.
I'll say Game 6 Tampa, only because Kucherov, Stamkos, Hedman, Braden Point, Vasilevsky, they've been there before. They know how to turn it up. Florida's never been there before. They have no idea how to turn it up. Well, like they made the playoffs last year, but not really made the playoffs. You know, like they were in the qualifier, but they didn't win against New York Islanders.
Yeah.
So Tampa, they're just going to turn it up so many notches, and Florida won't be able to keep up. Like here's the thing though, Quenneville coached against Tampa in 2015. He coached against them. He coached against John Cooper, and Quenneville's Jonathan Toews is going to be Barkov this series.
Yep.
He's going to need every ounce of Barkov to get going. And he's going to need whichever goalie he chooses to be a brick wall. And then that defense has to be as strong as possible. Otherwise, they're gone in 5. They're gone at 4. Because you got Kucherov, who's been ready for the past month. Like, he's been ready for the past month. And then Stamkos is coming back. You even take those two away from Tampa, Tampa's still winning. Like, Braden Point, come on. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. So my pick is Tampa in 6 games. I think that's generous for Florida, if you ask me. So, yeah, that's pretty much the summary for it from me. So then we're going to the Mass Mutual East Division. Now, this series is already underway, so regardless of being dated, you can date your sister, but you can't date your lead, sort of thing.
Okay, Tom Otto.
This series is it's a polarizing one. Suffice to say, it's something that a lot of rival fans are watching from afar with a lot of hatred, a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety because, well, certain players shouldn't be playing. And this series involves the Washington Capitals and the Boston Bruins. Tom Wilson, Brad Marchand, 2 villains, 2 super villains going at it. And now you've got Boston, who added Taylor Hall for peanuts on the dollar. Is he going to have a good season or a series? And then you look at Boston's goaltending, Tuukka Rask, James Swayman. Is it James Swayman?
Jeremy
Swayman. And then Yaroslav Halak. But then you look at Washington's goaltending, they're now down to Craig Anderson. Hobson, what are you thinking? How many games?
This is a really tough one for me. But I'm going to stick to my guns. And when I say stick to my guns, I mean stick to the pick that I made in my head before we recorded this.
Okay.
I am going to say Washington in 7 because it's kind of fucked that I'm saying that and we're seeing Craig Anderson being Washington's only option left between the pipes. But if there's any goalie in the NHL that knows playoff magic, it's Craig Anderson.
Man, you're telling me. Yeah.
And I don't know. I like Washington's team more. And as much as I hate to say it, because I know we just ripped Tom Wilson apart in our previous video, and I know we've all been ripping Tom Wilson on social media, I think he's going to be a crucial part of Washington's success. He scored the first goal of the playoffs yesterday. So, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I think it's going to be a barn burner, just like the Tampa Bay Florida series. But ultimately, I think Washington's going to come victorious in the end, and I think that they're going to do it in 7 games.
I think that'd be so funny for Washington to beat Boston based on the fact that Boston acquires Taylor Hall.
That would be hilarious. I'm not going to outright say I'm hoping for that, but as a Leaf fan, I never want to see Boston do well. So, yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. I know that Craig Anderson's got that really stupid ability to just, all right, I'm good. I'm not allowing anything tonight. He's got that ability. But he's 40 years old. If not 40,
about 40.
He's absolutely close. I just think that like Boston, you got Marchand, you got Bergeron, you got Krejci, you got Taylor Hall. Jake DeBrusk can be a bit of a jerk in the playoffs. I think there's just
David Pastrnak says hello.
Yeah, well, yeah. Jeez, how did I forget that?
He's 39. Craig Anderson actually turns 40 in 5 days. So
here's the thing, though. Like, you look at Boston's defense. Matt Grzelcyk.
Yes, you got it. Grzelcyk.
I finally got it for the first time in my life. I'm gonna celebrate.
Yeah. Shotgun a beer live on the pod right now.
Like, Charlie McAvoy he's solid. He's a very good defenseman, averaging 23 minutes a night, and he's taken a big step this year. And he can chalk that mentorship up to Zdeno Chara, big teacher in his life. And then, like, Boston's defense, like, it's Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Brandon Carlos, solid. Like, he's a good, like, he's kind of like Chara light, which is ironic. And then after that, I can name Kevin Miller, and then Jeremy Lauzon. Is that a forward or is that a defenseman?
No, he's a defenseman.
There you go. Right. But then, like, with Washington, you've got John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, two very good defensemen.
Mm-hmm. Brendan
Dillon. Like, they're just, I don't know. They're
better. You can just say better.
They're better. They're better.
There you
because
go.
John Carlson's got a strong defensive game, but then he's a phenomenal puck mover. And then Brendan Dillon shuts it down. And then Dmitry Orlov is kind of like that two-way kind of presence. Physical, blocks a lot of shots, moves the puck pretty well. And then you've got Ovechkin, who's got a cannon of a shot, who knows how to turn it up in the playoffs. He's won the cup. And then Nick Backstrom, also a very good centerman. And then Evgeny Koknetsov. So I said what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch that?
Koknetsov? Yes, I enjoyed that.
So I think this series is going 7 games for sure. 100% it's going 7 because it's going to be a dogfight. Boston's defense sucks. Washington's goaltending is questionable. It's questionable. But Craig Anderson's got that ability just to suck up pucks and just
do you know what would be the ultimate Cinderella story in these playoffs?
What?
If Craig Anderson somehow went down with an injury or something and the Caps dressed Henrik Lundqvist and he came back mid playoffs and just stole the show. Could you imagine that?
And won a cup?
Oh, buddy. Oh my Lord. I can't even begin to fathom the fucking headlines we'd see from that. Oh boy.
The story of all stories.
I would love it. I would love to see. I'm here for that. So you say 7 games, but who's your pick to win?
Man, I'm going to go. Oh, geez. This is hard because, like, Washington's got Anthony Mantha as well. They stack up really well to Boston. I'm going to this is hard, man. This is so hard. I'm going to choose Boston.
Just for the purpose of disagreeing with me, finally.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, we can't be agreeing on every single pick. I like that because you know what? You're right. The Washington-Boston series is a toss-up. Either team can take it.
Well, because like Bergeron knows how to turn it up, Marchand knows how to turn it up, Pastrnak knows how to turn it up. Taylor Hall's in the fold and he's looked great. Excuse me. So I'm choosing Boston because they've got Tuukka Rask, who's pretty freaking good. So, yeah, that's my pick. I'm going with Boston.
Right on. There you go.
So then Pittsburgh versus New York. This one, this is a series of all series because this is the one thing you look at Sidney Crosby's split stats and you think it's be a pro character on rookie mode. His career stats against the New York Islanders are something I don't think I've ever been able to do, even with my own be a pro mode on NHL. Crosby's played like 70 games against the New York Islanders, and he's got like 120 career points against the New York Islanders. So that alone tells you if he can turn it up, if he can get going against the Islanders are in trouble. But here's the thing. We've just seen it in game 1. The Islanders, they won it.
At the time of this recording, the Islanders won game 1 against the Penguins about 2 hours ago.
Yeah, 4-3 in overtime.
Yeah. Kyle Palmieri. And you know what? I got a buddy who's a Pens fan, and he's just fuming because Kyle Palmieri scored 2 goals in 17 games in the regular season for the Islanders and then scored 2 goals tonight, including the overtime winner. So
playoffs are a different beast, man.
They really are a different beast. The Islanders piss me the fuck off because I look at the roster and it's just like, how are you guys so good every year? Like, I don't care. Whatever the trap system, whatever the fuck. Like, if you don't have any star power, I mean, sure, you've got Matt Barzal. He's a great player. Sure, you've got, like, I'm fucking drawing a blank here. Who else? You got Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Anthony Beauvillier. Like, I know these guys are good players, but like, when you stack that up against Crosby, Malkin, fucking Jeff Carter, Brian Rust, all these guys, Kapanen. Yeah, Kapanen's been great for Pittsburgh this year. Gensel, yeah. I just missed him like you missed Pasternak. Yeah. When you stack them up against Pittsburgh, it just makes no sense how the Islanders have been so good against them in the playoffs in recent years. So it's like, you know what? Like, every year I always bet against the Islanders, and I'm going to keep doing it until they finally fucking lose because I'm not supporting them. I don't see how and you know what? Maybe this is just shining a light on how shit my hockey takes are. But, I just don't understand how. I don't care how well coached they are. I don't care how good defensively and how good they are at the trap style. I don't understand how they do so well in the playoffs this year. I think with Jeff Carter, he's a hell of an addition as, like, not just as like a forward contributor, but also just as like a guy who's been there before. And not that the Pens really need that because Crosby and Malkin and Letang have all won cups together. But I just see, I see Pittsburgh finally winning this year. I would go Pittsburgh in
finally winning,
finally beating the Islanders, I should say.
There you go.
not winning. No. I didn't mean that. Pittsburgh finally beating the Islanders. I'd say in 7 games they will.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Here's the thing with the playoffs: the rule book is thrown out. Clutch and grab rears its ugly face time and time again in the playoffs, and that's when the trap comes out, the clutch and grab comes out, the holding, the hooking, the slashing, not so much the slashing, but the holding, the hooking, the interference tends to happen a little more, and you got to go with the teams that are a little better at that kind of game than the other teams. And the New York Islanders just play that style to a fiddle. They play it like that's their game. And then they're stronger defensively. And then the goaltending is a little more stable. They led the NHL with shutouts this season with 10. 10? I want to say Semyon Varlamov got 10 shutouts this year. 10? Yeah. So
Varlamov?
Varlamov, yeah. He had a phenomenal year. Phenomenal year. I couldn't even say that.
I didn't even notice a fumble there. Anyways,
I think I had a stroke.
So what's your final prediction then for that?
I'm gonna say the Islanders in 6.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna say the Islanders in 6 because they know how to pick away at other teams' defense. Well, no, they know how to like go shell. They know how to metapod really well. They just use Harden, and then all of a sudden their defense is at a point where they can counter-attack the other team's defense. And that's how they get their offensive chances, and that's how they win. So I'm going New York Islanders in 6 games. I think that's a pretty safe pick. And then moving on, we're getting cold now. We're moving up north. We're going north of the border here. And this one's a bit of a chilly matchup. We've got Edmonton versus Winnipeg. This is a matchup that makes you feel certain things, makes you feel certain emotions. South of the belt, I don't know. Like, you got McJesus, you got Hellebuck, you got this, you got that. Leon Draisaitl. Hobson, what are you thinking, man?
So Winnipeg is 2-7-0 against Edmonton this year. They've got Connor Hellebuck, who can turn it on at any time and be Vezina Connor Hellebuck. They've got Nick Ehlers, who I'm not sure. I know he's injured right now. I'm not exactly sure when he's supposed to return, but he's been a pivotal part of their offense this year. They've got guys like Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Pierre-Luc Dubois, who have all been, especially Dubois, have all been nightmares in the playoffs. But is that enough? And is the Winnipeg Jets defense enough to hold back Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? No. I am going to go Winnipeg, not Winnipeg. I'm going to go Edmonton in 6 this year. Because I think Winnipeg with Hellebuck and the guys I just listed, I think that'll be enough to at least pepper the score sheet a little bit. And at the very least, scrape away a win or two of their own, but I don't think they'll be able to handle McDavid. Just like the tune's been all year, I don't think they'll be able to hold him off the score sheet. And I think he is going to lead the Edmonton Oilers to a 6-game playoff series and win against the Oilers. I mean, Jesus, against the Jets. My bad.
Here's
Connor McDavid is going to beat his own team. You heard it here first.
Well, maybe if they lose.
And he's going to sign in Toronto long-term at league minimum.
Oh yeah, that's the dream. You look at the Oilers, you look at Winnipeg. Winnipeg's defense is it's bleh.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's pretty much all I've got
you
for
could
Winnipeg.
Say it's highly suspect.
Is yes. Like Josh Morrissey, and that's it. Pretty like Dylan DeMello's okay. Like he's pretty solid.
Neil Pionk's
pretty good. Okay. He's actually pretty solid, but are they going to be able to withstand a Connor McDavid barrage of offense for 4 to 7 games? I don't think so. They've proven it in the regular season. They can't. They simply can't. And Connor,
sorry, fucking, I'm tired.
That's all good. It's okay.
You're not boring me. I promise. I would have yawned if I was sitting here by myself. Anyways,
that's okay. So then you got Connor Hellebuck, who is a Vezina caliber goalie, but trying to stop Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for 4 to 7 games, I think that's borderline impossible. Connor McDavid's got 105 points. That alone tells you that like he's going to be too much for Winnipeg. He's going to be way too much for Winnipeg. Yeah. And people were like, "Oh yeah, but like what about Edmonton against Chicago last year?" Yeah, what about it? Edmonton's a year older. He's got a little more maturity, and he's taken another step. He's making the NHL look easy, in which it is absolutely not. So I'm thinking Edmonton in 5 games, based on like the lack of defense that Winnipeg plays. Winnipeg's bad defensively, man. Like Scheifele, he's bad defensively. Kyle Connor, he's horrible defensively. So I think McDavid's going to really expose him.
Okay.
So it's gonna be hard for Connor Hellebuck to try and shut that down. It's gonna be super hard. Like Blake Wheeler and Scheifele are big bodies on the forecheck, but that's not enough against Edmonton. No. Edmonton, who's got that quick turn offense with McDavid, who can just go on a rush at any given point and score.
Yeah.
At any given point. So it's Edmonton in 5. I give Winnipeg 1 game because if you can,
you got to figure Hellebuck's going to steal a game at some point.
Like if you can slow McDavid down, you won't stop him. Toronto did though, so hang your hats on that. Yeah. If you can slow McDavid down for a game, you'll beat Edmonton because their lines after that are bad. They're very bad. So Winnipeg will get a game. I'm pretty sure of that, but they're not gonna win the series. That is a guarantee. That's the lucky guarantee.
There you go.
So that brings us The Coupe de Vivance. I don't even know what that means. The art, the Magnus Opum. No, what is that? The art of the NHL's playoffs. The moneymaker, if you will. The big breadwinner. The matchup that brings home the bacon. This one has been in wanting, in need of since 1979. Hobson. Toronto Maple Leafs are now facing the Montreal Canadiens for the very first time since 1979. And now we've got something so spectacular that we've never seen before. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. This Leafs team has never seen talent like that in its entire franchise history. Do they have what it takes to beat the Montreal Canadiens?
Yes.
Your thoughts?
Yes, they do. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Leafs are their own worst enemy, and the only way they lose this series is if they shoot themselves in the foot. That's the only way they lose this series, because I look at their offense. We don't even have to ask the question of if whose offense is better. We don't have to ask the question. The Leafs offense is better a mile away. Sure, the Habs may be a little bit better defensively. They may be a little more physical, but the Leafs this year compared to last year have the pieces on the defensive core, and they've got the physicality to at the very least hold their own against a team like Montreal, who thrives off of defense and physicality. Heading into Game 5 against Columbus last year, the Leafs defensive core was what? It was Riley, Barrie, Dermott, Ceci, Hall, Marinson. Something along the lines of that.
Yep.
So now they don't have CC anymore. They don't have Marinson anymore.
They don't have Barrie.
Don't have Barrie anymore. They've replaced those guys with with TJ Brody, with Rasmus Sandin, and I just see them. I don't see any way where the Leafs could lose this series unless they shoot themselves in the foot. They've been better in every single aspect this year. And you can even, you could go ahead and make the argument if Carey Price goes on a heater, we know what playoff Price is like. That's great. But the Leafs are the best offensive team in the league. If the Leafs turn it on and they play the way that we know that they're capable of playing, I don't see any way they lose the series to Montreal. And I will say, if they somehow do manage a first round loss for the fucking 5th year in a row or whatever you want to call it against Montreal, I'm going to be out of answers, man. I don't know if I'll be able to do this podcast anymore. Like, what'll be the point? We can sit down, everything, like the spades are all lining up for the Leafs this year. The cards are all lining up, and they can go ahead and they can go on a run this year. So I straight up, like I've said it in the past before. And even last year, like you could argue that at the time, the Leafs should have been the team to beat Columbus in that 5-game series. But even then their defense was depleted, and they were still like, they were coming back to playing hockey from like a 3-month break. And again, I'm not using that as an excuse because every team had to go through that, but I just don't see any possible way the Leafs lose this series. I really don't. They've tackled their defensive issues. They've tackled their goaltending issues. They've tackled their veteran issue, like their lack of leadership. They've got every single aspect on their team this year. And if they somehow lose to Montreal, I won't have anything left to say. They've got a full season under Sheldon Keefe. Keefe's implemented his systems right from the get-go. He had a proper training camp with them. I don't know how they lose. I don't. And if they do, I might quit the podcast, Mark. I'm serious. Like, I don't know. I'm saying Leafs in 6 because I do think the Habs are going to be a thorn in their side, and they're going to win a couple of these games. I know Price is going to have at least one game where he's just unstoppable. And, I'm sure they'll dress Cole Caulfield for a game and he'll score a hat trick or something like that. I just stupid. Don't see any way the Leafs lose this series. So I'm saying Leafs in 6. Has to be.
So here's the thing. I'm very curious as to what the NHL's thinking was behind setting in a back-to-back in this series. Meanwhile, it's the only back-to-back across the NHL. I don't understand that. I
thought the Jets and Oilers had one, didn't they?
Oh, maybe they do.
They might. I think because I remember reading something about how the North teams in particular got bent.
Oh yeah,
but I might be wrong.
Yep. Edmonton and Winnipeg have a back-to-back.
Okay. Either way, North teams are getting fucked.
Why is there a back-to-back in the playoffs?
because the NHL wants to speed them up and get them on track at the same time as the other teams, because they insist on having Calgary and Vancouver finish their last like 3 games against each other.
Like, so then, okay, so what happens if like a Central Division team wins in 4 games? Carolina, Nashville. You know, like there's going to be waiting regardless. There's going to be waiting regardless. Who cares? Just prolong the playoffs. Like they set a new day for the draft and for free agency, and they can't do that this time. They can't set back the draft a week. They can't set back free agency a week. They can't do that. The NHL is like, oh, we don't have any power here. It's laissez-faire, but here's the schedule. Screw yourselves. Shut up. Don't say anything. Bend over and do as you please, kind of thing. Like, what gives the NHL the right to do that? I don't get it. Like, so then for that back-to-back, do you go with Fred? It's like if the Habs go Allen for that first night and then they go Price the next night, do the Leafs go with Jack? I don't think that's Fred. Does Jack get the 2? Like, what's happening?
I don't think that's a question that you can ask right now. I think you have to reevaluate how the first 3 games go before you ask that question, because if Jack falters throughout the first 3 games and the game 3 is really bad, then yes, I think you give Freddie a chance. Or if the Leafs come in and they're up 3-0 in the series, then yes, I think you give Freddie a chance. But if it's tight, if Jack, say, loses a game and wins a game and then does really well in game 3, and you need the wins badly and you don't really want a chance throwing Freddie out to the Wolves for a playoff game, like right in the middle of crunch time, I think that you would go with Jack in that situation on the back-to-back. So I think that's a question you have to ask after game 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, like, why does the NHL do that? They never miss an opportunity to
miss an opportunity. They never do. The NHL is just, they're a joke at this point compared to other professional sports leagues. Like the way I don't know. We can tackle that later on.
Well, okay, so like here's the thing. Just taking a series, for example, the New York Islanders versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their game 7 is May 28th, and then Toronto's and Montreal's game 7 is May 31st. That's 3 days. It's 3 days. Who cares? Who cares?
NHL does, apparently.
Like 4 days or 5 days. Who does it affect?
Ooh, yeah, I agree.
Who does it affect? You get an extra day of rest for your players. Don't you want full rested hockey? Don't you want full energy hockey? Because that game 4, the game 4, like that's going to be, I think that's going to be a sloppy game.
Yeah, it will be. It will be.
It's going to be tough to play. And like there will be some serious injuries that happen, I think.
So what's your final prediction for the series then?
Toronto in 6, because Montreal will be on that crap. They'll steal a few games here. Do I think Montreal wins the series? Is there potential for it? Sure. Yeah, obviously. Because it's Montreal and they just have a reason to be ankle biters. Would I be surprised if Montreal wins this series? No, because Toronto has shown us this season that they can shit themselves. So that I'm really disappointed. I'm disappointed that aspect hasn't left this team, because
it's decreased quite a bit though. Like it's decreased. So we're making progress, baby steps. But I know what you mean.
One goal game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they couldn't win a 1-goal game last year, but I know what you're saying. Like it is a little frustrating that we're even considering this being a possibility heading into the playoffs. But I think they've got a much better chance this year.
And if not this year, then kind of a when situation. And signing Jumbo signifies that you're winning this year. You kind of have to win this year. Otherwise, you've wasted a year of Jumbo's time and you don't get that year back. And Jumbo's probably retiring this year. So I don't know. I think Toronto has to win this series. Otherwise, there's going to be a fundamental change. I think there's going to be a core piece gone, 100%.
Very well could be,
because like with it's 5 years now, and a potential of 5 years in a row of failure. Ooh, I don't think that's going to sit well with Dubas or even ownership. I really don't think that's going to sit well with them, because it's like, all right, so why? Why the failure? What's going on, guys? What's wrong? So it's a team defense thing, and they just need to understand that, pressure is a privilege. Mm-hmm. Like you work for the right to have pressure, right? And the Toronto Maple Leafs have an enormous amount of pressure this year, and they better own up to it. They better face the music and get the job done. Otherwise, there's going to be a very, very loud city about this team.
Oh yeah.
So,
all right.
My prediction is Toronto in 6, and that's it.
There you go.
So we'll revisit these predictions when the round is done, and then we're gonna predict the next rounds and the next rounds and the next rounds. So
I'm into it.
Yeah, man. So I think does that conclude the show?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool, man. All right. So if you've been tuning in for this episode, thank you. We appreciate you guys. We love you. And I really appreciate all the support and love that you guys have been giving us. I really appreciate it. And this is a fun hobby of ours. It's a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of fun to make. Little time consuming with work, but that's okay. It's all worth it in the end.
All in good fun.
So if you've been tuning in this far, thank you. Let us know. We'll give you a shout out in the next episode. And I'm Lugsy here with Hobson, and this is the Shanaclan podcast.
Take it easy.
Peace out.
Leafs,
NHL,
rumors,
prospects,
banter,
and everything in between.
This is the Shanaclan podcast
with Hobbs and Lugsy.